Byron Buxton had no problem hitting bombs today. And when he got home, he was awarded this, a fishing vest. Nice. And on the back, it says land of 10,000 rakes, meaning you're raking at the plate. You like that?
2019, we were hitting bombas. Now we're going fishing. Let's go, baby. Right now, the Twins are leading the division, and I don't think anyone saw this coming, but the Tigers are in second place. I mean, what a surprising season they're having.
But can you even call it second place? Aren't they? They have like a negative 37 run differential. I mean, they're literally 4 games under 500. I can't even give them credit for being in second place. I think the credit goes to the Guardians for being so terrible that they're in second place, and the White Sox for being absolute trash. Everyone knew the Royals were bad, but man, I don't know. I can't credit the Tigers for being 4 games under 500. You drop them in almost any other division unless they're with Oakland in the AL and they're in last place. So what are you going to do? Twins should be running away with it, and they're not. That's the problem.
Right. And it's been a little frustrating. We've been dealing with a lot of injuries, and, you know, we're very lucky to be playing in this dumpster fire of a division, but right. It's what we got. It's where we are. And, I mean, let's get right into it. I think we got to start with the elephant in the room, the Twins' offensive production. It's been very questionable. We've seen some low averages, and it kind of feels like our pitching staff is really kind of keeping our season afloat right now. What have you seen?
Our pitching staff minus Emilio Pagan and now recently Griffin Jax. Yeah, for sure. Just one last thing on the division, too. Like, let me ask you, actually, because I'm actually wondering this. Do you feel like you're setting yourself up for playoffs if you're the Twins right now and you're trying different things and you're doing things? Do you think they're like pretty convinced they're going to win the division and they're just like, hey, we got to play for playoffs. We're lining up for that. Let's put guys in different situations. Let's make Emilio Pagan work his way out of a jam. Like just the other day, Griffin Jax had thrown 30 some pitches and they left him out there and we ended up blowing the game. I mean, I think that's pretty stupid managerial. I love Rocco, but that was dumb. You know, like you can't be losing that game. And at that point too, you had guys like Pagan, or not Pagan, gosh, gross, but like a Lopez and Duran who had not pitched in like 4 days, and they still left Jax out there. So to me, maybe they're just doing some things to try to make people be in situations that they're uncomfortable and just playing for playoffs already. I don't know. Is that even possible when you're only up 2.5 games? Do you think? And then we'll get in the offense. I just got to know, like, when you're in this big of a dumpster fire division, do you look that far ahead already? Or are they just one game at a day, one game at a time?
You know, I think playoffs is just always something that's in the back of your head all season from game 1 to game 162. You always got to be thinking about how you're setting your team up to succeed, how not only to make the playoffs, but to succeed in the playoffs. And I think there is some truth to what you're saying. I think we do maybe feel a little comfortable in our division right now, and we are trying to test things and figure out, because, you know, better to find out that Jackson Pagan can't pitch in these situations now rather than, you know, when we need to win a few games to get into the postseason or, you know, whatever it may be. So I think there's definitely some, you know, trial and error going on, but at the same time, you still got to win games. I mean, anything can happen in baseball. We saw the Guardians get hot last year and kind of take the division from us. So I think you got to be going full blow, trying to win every game, but still at the same time, kind of playing chess a bit and trying a few things.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And you asked me about the offense. Yuck. It has not been a pretty sight. I mean, there's a few things that have been great. I mean, Joey Gallo has been worth the gamble for sure. He's been awesome. He's got 11 bombs already, like 23 RBIs. If I could tell you that it would be the end of May almost now, and I would say, hey, guess what? Joey Gallo doesn't have the most strikeouts on the team. Correa has more. You'd be shocked. Only by 1. He has 1 more, but like, come on. You know, like that Joey Gallo, if he can have less strikeouts than someone else on the team, Larnach has 53. Larnach has like 10 more than Gallo. And yet we still run him out there every day. I mean, these are just some of the situations where, I don't know, Buxton has 50. The strikeouts are unbelievable. Like against Reed Detmeyer's, I think Reed Detmeyer is a great pitcher for the Angels, but if your offense goes up there and between Detmeyer's and the bullpen, you're striking out 16 times in a game, there's an issue. There's a problem. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're chasing pitches. I don't know if they're trying to hit certain pitches, if they're only looking for certain pitches. Something's going on because they are striking out a lot. I need to look exactly where they lead in the all of baseball, but they're not at the bottom. That's for sure. They're towards the top.
No, and that's the thing about strikeouts. It just kills offensive flow, production, all of that, because when you put the ball into play, guys have to make plays on the ball. The minute you're striking out, no one has to make a play. You're just giving up that out. So it makes it really difficult to keep innings alive and really get rallies going sometimes if you got guys just not challenging fielders and pitchers.
Yeah. It's been rough. And, I mean, we have to when you talk about our offense, we have to talk about Correa. So the first thing on every single person's mind with the heck of an offseason that he had, going to the Giants, going to the Mets, ending back up with the Twins, taking less money but more AVP. Just, he's not performing. Like, the Twins cannot continue to have Correa do what he's been doing. He cannot continue to hit the way he's hitting. Defensively, he's always great. He's amazing. He's like Francisco Lindor. Javi Baez is they're great, defensively, but if they're not there with their bat, they're not worth the money. And right now, Correa is not there with the bat. Let's be honest. I liked the signing. I like Correa. I see him getting booed. I see him respectfully saying, you know what, I would boo me too if I made this money and hit like this. I get it. That's got to be a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, even after that offseason. But it's not that early in the season anymore. I mean, you're a third of the way through the season now. That pressure has to come off.
Yeah, at some point you have to step up and start playing up to the contract that you signed. And I mean, do you think this is something with the lingering injury that was the concern in the offseason? Is this a mental thing? Is it BABIP? I mean, what do you see? Where do you think this struggle comes from?
Well, I mean, I think it's a combination of all those things you just said for sure. But I think one thing maybe that hasn't been talked about a lot is, I think it's tough when you're in a lineup that has so much turnover. We don't have that guy like Luis Arraez that's leading off every single time anymore, where Arraez was leading off. He would see 10, 12, 13 pitches some at bats, and you got Correa sitting there in the 2-hole on deck going, all right, like, I've seen a ton of pitches. He's standing basically behind the catcher watching the pitches. I think that has such a bigger impact than anybody realized, and that could be a part of it. The pressure is for sure a part of it, but I think with Kepler being in and out of that number one spot, I think we've seen Taylor up there. We've seen Buxton up there before, but he's usually in the 3 spot. We've seen a few guys, Gallo obviously leading off. We've seen a lot of guys rotating in and out of that number one spot ahead of Correa, and I think as a hitter, as a number 2 hitter, and you're in that spot that you're expected to perform, that can be tough to have guys interchangeable at the leadoff spot. So as much as I love Pablo Lopez, dang, Luis Arraez is raking in Miami right now, and he would love to be a part of this team, I think. But I don't know. To me, that has a big issue. That's a big problem, is the rotating team, really.
Absolutely. Just finding that consistency can be so important for hitters. And I mean, if this pace continues up for how long does this have to happen? Do you be like, okay, something needs to change. He needs to go down in the order. He needs to go down to triple. Like, is there a time period where it's
I don't think, unless he's injured, I don't think going down to AAA is even an option. Like, I think that's just insane. Just his defense alone, he could be going up there and hitting 50 in his batting average, under 100, and you're still got to run him out there every day. He's so good defensively. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe you try him in the number 1 spot, have him lead off. If maybe he needs to see more pitches. Maybe you need to drop him behind somebody like Buxton even, or something. I don't know. Maybe there's something that has to change, or you just keep doing it. You just keep running him out there. He's going to find it eventually. His OPS is like 100 some points lower, I believe, right now than he's ever had on a season before. So he's on pace to have his worst season ever. I don't think that's going to happen. He'll find it. He'll come around. He can be streaky just like Buxton. Hopefully it'll click. One guy it has clicked for, Mr. Alex Kilaroff. Oh my goodness. He is fun to watch. He is absolutely raking. He can't stop. He's a baseball god right now behind the plate, in my opinion. He comes up clutch.
He has been raking over 1,000 OPS. I mean, this guy is just kind of given that shot of life that our lineup needed. Kind of the return of him and Polanco. Both of those guys came in hot and came in swinging great sticks. So, and you're right. You're totally right. They've been just super fun to watch.
Yeah, and I didn't have a lot of faith in Polanco. Killaroff, he's young. He's got tons of potential. Coming into the season, I think if you go back and look at some of the podcasts, I was a little down on Polanco. I was like, I don't know. You got Edward Julian sitting there. You got Nick Gordon sitting there. I don't know. Time is ticking for Polanco if he comes into the season not hitting well, but he came in hitting great. So he's keeping and earning his spot, and that's exactly what Kepler's doing. These two older guys that have been with the organization since they reached 16 years old, they don't want to go anywhere. And they're not going anywhere if they hit the way they're hitting. I mean, Kepler hasn't been perfect, but he's done more than what I think was expected of him. He's been better than last year, and that's kind of all you can ask. I mean, I'm trying to see what he's hitting right now. But, yeah, he's been good. I mean, you were down on Kepler. Are you happy with him now in that leadoff spot? I know he's hurt.
I think it's hard to say, but I think I have been pleasantly surprised with how he's kind of turned around. Kind of had a very slow start to the season. He's kind of picked up the pace, and it's been surprising. It's a shame he's went down to the 10-day IL, but
yep.
We got a lot of depth in the outfield. And speaking of a depth piece that I think has been very surprising this year, Kyle Farmer. He's had a couple fun walk-offs, and he's swinging a good bat. I mean, what have you seen out of him?
Just the fact, first of all, I loved the Kyle Farmer deal from the start. I've said that. I've been a big fan of Kyle Farmer. I love having the versatility. And when you got a team like the Twins who have a lot of injury-prone players, you need a guy like that. You need a guy that can jump into third. He can jump over to first. He can play second. He can play short. I'm sure if they asked him to catch or play outfield, he'd be all over it, But that's what's great about him. And he still is so good. He feels like a veteran guy out there, presence-wise to the other players. And he kind of pulled the Bryce Harper. I mean, he took that pitch to the face and yet comes back and is just as good, if not better, than before he took a pitch to the face. And I don't know about you, but you hit me in the face with almost 100-mile-an-hour pitch, I'm quitting. I'm done. That's it. End of the story. Even if I wanted to come back, I just don't know how someone could stand back in that box and watch another 100-mile-an-hour pitch get thrown at them and hit a walk-off. Like, was it 2 days? Second game back, I think? Or no, he hit a home run in his second game back. We were at that game. That was that Padres game, right? Mm-hmm. That was awesome. So it's like, good for him, man. I'm pumped about Kyle Farmer.
Yeah,
I hope he does not get hurt the rest of the season for sure.
Absolutely. The mental strength to, like you said, get in there and go back to seeing 100-mile pitches after taking one to the chops that's no fun. And all credit to him. That's very impressive. But is there anyone else on the offense, good or bad, that you like to kind of call out before we move on? Yeah,
let me ask you on a couple guys, actually, because a few that have been surprisingly bad as well, one being Jose Miranda. I want to know your thoughts on that. And since we're kind of talking about guys down in AAA, we have to talk about Royce Lewis, I think. But let's start with Jose Miranda. I love Jose Miranda. I think he's amazing. He's got so much potential. He's got pop. He's got that strong swing. He pushes his hands through. Offensively, he's amazing. Defensively, he's great. He doesn't jump off like Correa, but he's good. So him being sent down was much needed, though. He was struggling so hard. I hope we see him back, but I don't know. There's not a lot of holes right now in this lineup to bring him back. What do you think we're going to need to see? Is it going to be an injury? Is Miranda going to have to just prove himself down there? Or how? What's your thoughts on Jose Miranda? I did not expect him to be down in May.
No, I didn't either. I think at the start of the season, he was my pick to be the most improved player this year. And yeah, he's been struggling. He's not seen the ball well, and maybe getting down to AAA is the best thing for him. Like, just get a mental reset, go focus on some mechanics, some basics, and figure it out. And right now, like you said, there isn't a lot of holes in our lineup. And, having him just as a depth piece down there, I mean, he's still a very young player. So him being down, taking a moment to kind of refine his swing and whatnot, I think it's exactly what he needs right now. And, our lineup isn't doing awful without him. So I think it's the right thing for sure.
I mean, the offense hasn't been good, but they haven't been bad. They just haven't they haven't had that clutch gene that you need, and nor has some other, sometimes our pitching as well hasn't had that clutch gene. It just feels like they're not winning games that they need to win this year. We're going into the 7th inning and we're up 3-1 and we're blowing the game somehow, some way, and losing 4-3. You can blame it all on the bullpen if you want to. You can blame it on whoever you want defensively, but also you're not hitting after you're up 3-1. You got to continue to pound those guys, and they just haven't been able to do that. But all right, Royce Lewis, that was the other one I brought up offensively. If anybody hasn't seen, he is absolutely tearing it up down in the minors right now. He hit 2 home runs the other day. He had another one the day before that. He's proving that he does not belong in the minor leagues. If it wasn't for the fact that the Twins had put him on the 60-day IL, which the rule is you have to leave him there for 60 days from when you placed him on there, he would be up right now for sure. He's killing it. Looks like everything's working down there right now. But he cannot come up, I believe, for another... It'll be the end of May, and he'll be up at the end of May. So just next week, and I think we'll see him up the moment he's available to come up, once it's allowed.
100% agree.
To be on this team.
Yeah.
I don't know where or how you're going to play him for sure yet, because everyone else in the offense they're holding their ground, They're doing the things that are asked of them for the most part. So, you're not replacing Correa. Where do you kind of see, where do you think we plug Royce Lewis in here?
I think Royce Lewis he's one of those players where his bat is just going to make a spot for him in the lineup one way or the other. He's been absolutely lighting it up in AAA, like you said. And I think there's no questions asked that he would be up right now if he could be. But yeah, I think whether it's outfield, whether it's other places in the infield, he's going to be finding his way into his lineup one way or the other for sure.
If they put him in the outfield and he gets hurt, I swear to God, we're never doing another podcast again. If he gets hurt the first game and they go throw him out there in center field again, I'm going to be so mad. I really hope that we see Royce Lewis. Ideally, I think at third base would be amazing. I thought that Jose Miranda would lock that down and be there long term. I know we love Kyle Farmer, but really third base would be the spot. Him and Correa pairing together on the opposite side of the infield over there is just such a strong duo. I think they're both so good defensively. They're both such good leaders, communicators if you watch them. Royce Lewis is the upcoming Carlos Correa minus the Astro stuff.
Yeah, no.
Hopefully none of that, but.
Well, hear me out. I have this crazy idea. What if we DH Royce Lewis and play our best defensive fielder in center field?
Oh.
What a thought.
You're talking about Michael Taylor?
Oh, so Buxton. Close. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah. I don't know. I understand the thought process. I get we're trying to save him. He's been injury prone. But at some point, you got to be playing your best guys in the field. And the fact we haven't seen him all season, it doesn't sit well with me. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I've gone so back and forth on this so many times because I know that if he was out there, let's say they were like, we're going to keep him DHing until May 1, and then they brought him out there May 1st, and by May 15th, he's on the IL. Everyone on the team would be down on themselves. Everyone in the front office, everyone would be like, what were we thinking? Oh my gosh, again, are you kidding me? Every fan would be like, yeah, what do you know? Here he is. He's DHing, and right now he's day-to-day. He's got a hurt knee. It's the knee that he had, I believe he had surgery on in the offseason. So Rocco came out and said, they asked him, why is he still DHing and how long is that going to happen? And I believe, this is not a direct quote, but he basically said, if he was 100% right now, he would be playing center field. And to me, that shows that he probably has not been 100% all season. And I'm guessing, of course, right now he's not because he's day-to-day. I watched the film of the game when he got hurt, and I could not find anything that shows how he got hurt or what it hurt. So he must just be sore. It didn't look like he kind of had a weird running into first base. He kind of stepped weird. You can go back and look at it, but then he ended up going from first to third on the next hit. And he went first to third later in the game, and he's full on sprinting. He's slamming his feet down, stopping at times. Looks like nothing is wrong with his legs or his knee. I know people can fight through pain, but it didn't look like there was any issue. So I'm guessing he's just sore, and they're being really, really cautious. One, because of what we talked about in the beginning of this, is that I think the Twins have the AL Central locked down if they want it and they play their cards the right way. The only team that I'm afraid of is the Guardians. I'm not afraid of Detroit. I'm not afraid of the White Sox or the Royals. The Guardians, their entire team is so bad right now that if all of a sudden they all get hot, they could definitely catch us. We are not that far ahead of them. Is not that big of a lead. So as long as we stay in first, I think Buxton stays DHing. I don't think they put him in the field. If all of a sudden Guardians are just lighting it up and they get within even a game of us, or maybe they tie us or take the lead for a moment, I think you see Buxton out there the next day if he's 100%. That's my.
I'm all for it. Get him out there as soon as we can.
Yeah, I mean, shockingly, Michael Taylor and Nick Gordon have been amazing in center field. I'm sure Buxton could have maybe one or two more plays that are more amazing, but they have held up their end of the bargain. They've laid their bodies on the line. They've dove. They've ran into walls. They've done everything that's asked of them. And if you put Buxton out there right now, I don't care. You put him out there, you know what they're going to ask him to do? Do not dive. Do not run into a wall. Do not do anything stupid. And in that case, really, you're making it so that you don't have your best outfielder out there. And that's what they're going to do. I would do the exact same thing. If I was the front office or the coach, I'd say, I know you're an amazing outfielder. We want you out there, but don't you dare get hurt. Be smart. It's not worth it. Saving a single from being a hit just to lay your body on the line is not worth it. I think that's what's really ingrained in their head because it's been 10 years of injuries for Buxton. That's a long time. He's been hurt since I can remember. He's been hurt.
Yeah, kind of getting the Mike Trout treatment in a way.
Yeah. Until you really, really, really need his bat in the lineup and you need a bigger bat than Taylor or Gordon, for example, I don't think there's any reason. And Taylor and Gordon have been pretty solid behind the plate. Like, they haven't been bad. If those two are really bad, Buxton's going in the field.
Yeah.
That's just the way it's going to be. And if the Guardians catch us, that's what I'm saying. Detroit ain't catching us. I ain't scared of Detroit at all. They suck.
No. Fair enough.
Yeah, you heard it here first. And we will replay this in 6 months when they make playoffs.
Yep. Well, I think that kind of closes up the hitters segment.
Yeah.
Unless you have anything else.
No,
Let's move on.
I think everyone's just going to fill in. Like, I've always been worried, like, where is Royce Lewis going to fit? It's going to open up. Nick Gordon's hurt. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to be playing bad. Don't worry if any of you are like, where is Garlick going to fit in? Where is Wallner going to fit in? They're going to be here. So don't overthink where the AAA guys are going to fit because they will fit.
Always works itself out for sure. Well, let's get into some starting pitching because, wow, we have had some great starters this year. Joe Ryan and Sonny Gray, two dark horse Cy Young candidates. I mean, come on. Like, this is just unreal at this point. They are just lighting it up.
It is amazing to see, and it feels really good. Joe Ryan, we've said this on the show, he's the sexiest man alive. He is fun to watch. Yeah. You take your girlfriends, your wives to that game. They want to watch Joe Ryan. We want to watch Joe Ryan. He is lights out. He is going to be in this league and a star for a long time. I think one day a Cy Young potentially. He has proven that he has the strikeout stuff this year even more than ever. I think his strikeout to inning ratios, it's over 9 for sure. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's really good. He's 6-1. He should be better if it wasn't for Emilio Pagan. I think he'd be like 8-1. Every time he's got a lead, somebody screws it up in those games too. And we'll get into that. All right. Yeah. But yeah, Sonny Gray he's not even a dark horse candidate. He's a straight up candidate right now for Cy Young. Yeah. He's so good. Yeah. And he struck out 60 guys so far in 49 innings. Sonny Gray. This pitching staff is so much better than last year, right?
Oh, 100%. It's not even close. And I mean, we're still missing two of our two great arms in Kenta Maeda and Tyler Mahle. And yeah, it's guys have stepped up. I mean, Bailey Ober and Louis Varland have both looked really good in their starts as well. I mean, it's just through and through. The starters have been awesome this season. And when is the last time we've been able to say that about a Twins team? I mean, yeah, it felt like it's the roles have reversed this year, and it's the offense that we got to worry about now.
Yeah, It really feels like, I don't know, it's so weird to watch this team because I think their run differential's so high. Like I believe between us and Detroit, I'll look this up as we're talking still, but the run differential is massive. I'm going to guess like 70 or 80 run difference, and they're in second place. Like that is a big gap, but yet something seems like it's happening between the starting pitching, the bullpen, and the offense, where not all three are colliding at the same time. One leg is falling in almost every game. It doesn't matter if Joe Ryan goes out there and throws 8 shutout, 12 strikeout, he doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like he just throws an absolute gem, nobody can hit. And if everyone is just crushing the ball and our starting pitcher is throwing lights out, bullpen comes in and they blow the game. It just, one of the three just seems like it keeps falling out, and they're not all lining up at the same time. Our bullpen has been great. Our starting pitching has been great. Our offense has been mostly great, I think, as expected, other than Correa. Like everyone's been pretty good. Could be better, but yet they're just not lining up. And you mentioned Bailey Ober. Put a star on him. He is my favorite pitcher this year. He is so good. I don't know. He has a name that's just not terrifying. Like Bailey Ober, you're just like, I'll hit against him. I don't know why. That just sounds so weird, but it's not like, oh, Joe Ryan or, Shohei Ohtani. You got all these names that just sound very threatening. It's like, yeah, I'm Bailey Ober. I'm going to strike you out. And then
he steps on the mound and you look up and like, whoa.
Exactly.
He's a giant.
He is. And I would argue he may be our best starting pitcher the rest of the season at this point. He has found something. I don't know what it is. He's been up and down the last, couple years here between AAA, but he has found it and he's got it. And I am so glad to have him over like Dylan Bundy on this team or Chris Archer. Oh, yeah. Did you see what happened to Dylan Bundy, by the way, the other day? I don't know if anyone else saw this. He's playing down in Double-A. I can't remember who for exactly, but his ERA is over 10. Absolute. You can't get much worse than over 10 when you're down in Double-A as a starting pitcher. And he got ejected from the game for illegal substances on his hand and in his glove. And, old guy trying to find new tricks kind of thing. Straight out of Major League. But he's done. There's no way he's coming back up. But just talking about one other thing, if there's anything else you have on the starting pitching, actually, tell me that first. But then I gotta transition to the bullpen. I have an idea. Is there anything else on the starting pitching you want to talk about?
I think the only other guy we haven't talked about is Pablo Lopez.
or Louis Varland. Yeah.
Yeah, Pablo I think is the big name. I mean, we made the big trade for him, and he's been very solid. I mean, a 3.9 ERA. 75 strikeouts in 60 innings. I mean, that's solid production, but, hoping he can kind of get those runs down a little bit more and get a few more wins on his belt for sure. But go ahead on Louis Varland.
Well, yeah, Louis Varland's been amazing, but yeah, you're right with Pablo Lopez, Louis Varland, you name it, Joe Ryan, all these guys. Here's what we're seeing on the Twins that I don't think Twins fans have seen in a very long time, probably since like when we had not Joe Ryan. Now I've got Joe Ryan in my head.
That's all you can think about.
Yeah, like Yohan Santana, kind of that 2004, 2005, 2006 era where we had some really good pitching, maybe even 2010, 2011, some of those pitchers where what is really happening in the past few years is our starting pitching is not going deep. None of them are getting past the third, fourth, fifth inning, and now they are. And now, like you just said, Pablo Lopez is throwing 60 innings already, and you got Joe Ryan throwing 56, Sonny Gray's throwing almost 50 now, and like that makes such a difference for the bullpen, for the manager, for everybody, really, especially the bullpen. Like you would think that we would have an absolute lights out, shut the door bullpen every single game because our starting pitching is so good. They're all rested. You can bring your top guys out over and over. You don't need to go back to a guy that just pitched yesterday because he might not have even pitched yesterday. So that is what the starting pitching is doing for our bullpen. And that was what I was trying to say, like to segue to it is because our starting pitching is so good, our bullpen is amazing. Take away one or two guys. We all know the guy, maybe two now. Emilio Pagan, you just get him out of there. I get it. people like that his numbers look good, his spin rate is good, he's got all this stuff, but you know what he doesn't have? Clutch. He does not have the clutch gene. He is absolutely, you cannot roll him out there in a tight game. I don't care if you're up by 2 or down by 2. I do not ever want to see Emilio Pagan in that situation, at least until you've got a 10, 15 game lead in the division. There's just no reason. You need to be racking up those wins right now. You should be running your bullpen out there to just seal the deal. Jose De Leon just came. He's looking good now out there. Griffin Jax looked pretty good for a while. He's been struggling as of late. They're just pounding him, and he's not finding the strike zone as often as he was before. So he's been an issue. But when you got Lopez and Duran, man, love it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, both of those guys have been absolutely lights out this season. Duran throwing a 1.53 ERA, 22 strikeouts in 17 innings. Those are great numbers. You love to see it. Like, between those two guys, it feels like we should be able to shut down any game, any night. And it's frustrating seeing a guy like Pagan going and getting those innings when we've seen time and time again he just cannot be trusted with important innings. And I think you gotta have him prove it in, let's see, 10 innings of just unimportant stuff. Like, get back into it. I don't know. I don't know what you do with him at this point.
Yeah, I don't either. Like, it's such a weird scenario where he is a good pitcher. Like, I'm not going to lie. He's a great pitcher. He was at one point a great closer. Like, he's got great stuff. The numbers look like he's good, but yet he's given up 20 hits in 17 innings. And that's just not acceptable coming out of the bullpen. Sure, he has 17 strikeouts in 17 innings. That's what I feel like a lot of people look at, and they're like, great. But when you see 11 runs, and those 11 runs have not been like from one game. They've been, it'll be 3-2. He'll come in the game and he'll give up a home run, and all of a sudden now there's a 2-run home run. Now you're down 4-3 and you lose 4-3. Those runs have all been very important runs this season. A couple specifically that are right in the top of my mind, and that's exactly what he did last season. This is nothing new. That's the problem. They re-signed him after he did this exact same thing last year, and all to like the Guardians last year. They kept bringing him in over and over. It's extra innings. It's 9th inning, down by 1, up by 1, doesn't matter. They rolled him out there, and it cost us the season last year, in my mind. Like, he took a big chunk of that pie for missing the division last year, and now they're doing it again.
Do you think this is a problem that the Twins are going to address coming up on the trade deadline here? Like, do you think we're going to make some moves for some bullpen help, or like, yes. should he be traded? Should he be sent down? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if they end up, I don't know. I feel that's such a hard spot because he is still such a good pitcher and he can still get you innings. He's a veteran guy, so like, I'm fine with him being on the team to a point. But if you're in a game and it is you're up by 5 or you're down by 5, do not bring him in the game if it's anywhere in there. If you're up by 6, bring him in. You're down by 6, bring him in. I don't care. And make him throw 30, 40 pitches. Go for it. Like, have him just be that arm that's still being competitive, keeping your team potentially in it. But also, if he blows it, you know what? What are you going to do? Pull him out of the game or leave him in there for all I care, so you don't have to bring out Williams, Astadio, and not that we have him anymore, but you know what I mean? You don't have to put a position player in that scenario.
Yeah, you know what? At this point, I wouldn't mind him coming back to our bullpen.
Yeah, he might throw better than Pagan, honestly. Probably has a lower ERA last year. I don't know what you do with Pagan. I cannot figure it out. Yes, they are going to trade for bullpen arms. I think that is a zero. I think there's a 0% chance that they don't trade for bullpen arms unless they're out of the division at the deadline. And I just don't see that happening. This team has so much talent. They are going to be in it. I think the question is, how early do they trade for the bullpen arms? Are they going to trade for bullpen arms potentially here at the end of May, in June, or are they going to wait all the way until the deadline comes around? That I don't know. But when you got Emilio Pagan coming in a game, walking multiple guys, walking in the tying run, and then giving up a grand slam, that's my answer. Speechless.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to be able to trade for a bullpen guy too quickly because there's too many teams that are still potentially in the running. And teams like Kansas City or, Oakland are obviously, they're out of it. They're not even trying to win. They're out. They're trying to rebuild. It's over. Like, they're not going to win, especially Oakland. But look at Kansas City. They got Aroldis Chapman. Do you want Aroldis Chapman? Or is he like, I'm not going to say no, but I'd be a little afraid of him too. He's not necessarily the best clubhouse guy, it sounds like, on the team. He let down the Yankees last year by not showing up. I don't know if you want that guy, but that's kind of your only option if you were to go out there right now. Maybe a couple other guys between there's a bullpen guy for the A's that's pretty good that they could go get, but if you said it, I would know, but that's all right. If you think of it, blurt it out. But anyway, you could go get those guys right now, but that's your only options. If all of a sudden now you get to July, you're going to have almost half the league looking at the standings going, yeah, next year, boys. We'll get them next year. And they're going to start trading their guys. And now you've got more saturation in the market. You're going to get a lot better options for what you're paying than if you trade for one right now. So I don't know. The Twins just need to keep racking up wins, and they're going to have to stick with what they got. I think it's going to be a little bit before they trade for an arm, especially with our division being such crap.
Yeah, kind of feeling a little comfortable. Don't feel like we need to make an instant move because we do have a lot of good arms in our bullpen right now. I mean, go look at a guy like Brock Stewart. I mean, he's pitched 12 innings and he's still yet to give up a run. I mean, that's awesome to see that production from the kind of bottom of our bullpen because, I mean, we know Duran and Lopez, those guys are nails. Like, they're pitching great. And you brought up Jose De Leon earlier too. It's nice getting him back and kind of seeing that those bottom of the bullpen guys starting to make a bigger impact, which is great. But since we're on the trade deadline topic, unless you have anything to say about the relievers before we move on.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's really much offense they need to trade for either. Starting pitching, like, unless there's an injury, I don't know who you're going to trade for on offense or starting pitching, unless they try to trade away, say, a Kepler or a Polanco in order to get someone. They may do that, but I don't know. That just doesn't feel super likely to me, and I think a lot of these questions will get answered as things play out, and it's just a little too early to speculate on the trade deadline. Yeah. There's a lot of guys out there. There has been rumors. You want to say it? I know you're thinking it. You say
I was thinking
you're wearing red.
I'm wearing red. I want Shohei. I don't care if it's a rental. If the Twins go make a move for Shohei, one, I would love to see the long-term contract. I mean, pay the guy. You're talking about a generational talent. I don't have to explain why Shohei's worth it, but it's going to take a lot. Are you willing to move all those pieces? And what do you think that trade would even look like?
I want to start this by saying Shohei Ohtani is the best player in baseball, and probably, if he's consistent like this, the best player that has ever played the game of baseball ever. He's that good. Not going to lie. But because of that, he is also the most valuable player in baseball of all time. More valuable than, I can't even, like, even if you were trading for a guy right now that had, like, if you were trading for, let's say, a Vlad Guerrero Jr. with 4 years on his contract left, or Shohei Ohtani for half a season left, I think you're going to trade the same value. That's how good Ohtani is. He can go out there, and one day he might throw a perfect game for your team, and the next day he may hit for the cycle. You know what? He may do that in the same night, and oh my gosh, like, that's how good he is. And you're just not going to get that from anyone else. So I can't imagine that any team is going to be able to pay up enough to get him, unless, I just don't think anyone has the value. Like, I think if the Twins offered their entire farm system, they're not going to be able to get Ohtani. And if they did, they would have to trade Brooks Lee for sure. They would have to trade Royce Lewis for sure. I think that's a no-brainer. You're asking for those two guys and then more depth pieces. And you're asking for guys that are just massive potential. You're probably asking for our top 5 prospects and maybe even more. And I am not willing to do that because I'm a Minnesota sports fan and I've been here, and I know that even if we did that, something's going to happen and we're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs. Like, look at the Angels. Mike Trout hasn't played a playoff game since 2000. What was it? 2019? Did he play one? I don't know. He's barely played in the playoffs, right? Best player in baseball, in my opinion, besides Ohtani, and they're on the same team, and they were still not in playoffs last year. So I don't think that getting Ohtani on the Twins roster is going to flip a switch and be like, World Series. And that's all I want. I would way rather they go out, if they're going to trade big prospects, go get more bullpen. We have pretty good offense. You're going to have injuries, because what if Ohtani gets hurt and you trade your whole system and he's plays for you for 3 weeks, gets hurt, and he's out? I'm not willing to take that gamble. That's way too much money to pay. Now, if you're telling me long-term contract, of course, I'm all in on that, because you're not giving up any prospects. You're just spending money, and it's not my money. It's a poll ads money, so go for it, guys. Like, I'm all for that, and they're obviously in it to win it right now because they bought Correa, and they went and got Joey Gallo. They went and got Pablo Lopez. They traded Luis Ariz. Like, that's a young, absolute star talent. They did it. They've been working on it. They're doing what they have to do to win. But I just cannot even picture Ohtani even having a conversation with the Twins. I just don't think that's the market that he wants. I don't think it's the market that Major League Baseball is going to want. I think that, like it or not, Major League Baseball is going to have somewhat of a say in where he goes and signs, because they're going to want him on the East Coast or the West Coast. One of the two. I'm not sure. As of right now, I think he's going to be a Dodger. I think he's going to stay in LA. I think he's going to be there for the rest of his career. They're going to sell every single Ohtani thing you could ever imagine, and that's where he's going to be. Or a Giant. They've got money to spend. Padres and Mets they have so much money. I just don't think the Twins can battle in that scenario. So, not to go off on Ohtani here, but give me your opinion on what you think of Ohtani. I know you said obviously you're all in, but anything I said that sparked you that you want to debate about?
No, I think overall I pretty much agree. It's like, I don't think anyone says no to wanting Ohtani on a team, but yeah, free agency is a much better decision to try to get him. But I don't know, if you were guaranteed that you were going to sign him to a 10-year contract after this rental, does that change your opinion? Yeah,
for sure. If I'm guaranteed that he's going to have a 10-year contract, if the Angels went out, signed him to a 10-year contract, and then traded him to us for that, plus the cash value, of course, yeah. Because there's way less risk.
Yeah,
I think that's every one of your prospects. I think you're going to gain, if you have Ohtani on your team, you are going to gain prospects just by having Ohtani on your team. You're going to have guys who are down the Dominican that are free agents, maybe not running through the draft. You got guys from Japan, you name it, that are like, oh, I could play with Ohtani. I'm picking that team over that team if they're offering the same value. So you're getting a lot if you have Ohtani on your team. And I think that's what the Dodgers are looking at, because they're never going to be a team that is ever going to do what the Royals, what the A's, what the Baltimore Orioles have successfully done, what the Astros done. They are never going to be a rebuild team probably ever again, because they're such a big market team. They just can't do that. And that's where you go buy those big players that can literally reel in other prospects to just want to play with them. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be hard to see him in any other outfit than the Angels. I think I'd be shocked if he goes anywhere else.
Yeah, the Ohtani effect is real. There's no question about it. And obviously, I don't think this is a very likely thing that the Twins make a trade or sign him in the offseason, whatever it may be. But
it's a possibility.
It is a possibility, and I think just the fact that it is a possibility that the Twins are even in this conversation to begin with, I think is just exciting as a Twins fan. And I'm glad we have an organization that's trying to push the chips all in and is really trying to bring home some trophies. For sure.
For sure. I feel like they run this team kind of like a fantasy team. You know, they're throwing out all the feelers. They're like, listen, if someone comes to me and says like, hey, are you interested in Ohtani? Of course I am, for the right price. You know, right. I'm interested in every player. Where I feel like some of the Twins GMs in the past or managerial side of things, like they weren't always interested in having star players like Correa. I felt like they were wanting to build in-house, just do that. They weren't looking to sign big name free agents. They wanted those homegrown players that believe in the Minnesota Twins, and sometimes you just need talent, and that's what they've started to do. They're just bringing in talent, and that is, I don't know, it's proving to work for us right now, but it's not proving to work for the Padres or the Mets. The amount of money they've spent this offseason is probably more than the Twins have spent in the entire history of the organization combined on free agents, and we're in first place, and those two teams are not. So money means nothing. Long story short.
No, it does not. Go look at the Rays and Orioles right now.
Right, exactly.
Well, speaking of some money, I know this isn't an on-the-field thing, but the Twins broadcast team brought in Trevor Plouffe, which,
Yes.
I mean, he's seen some success with John Boy Media and whatnot, and I just love to see them bringing back, Glenn Perkins, Morneau, Plouffe, just all these Twins that I grew up watching and love so much, and now I get to hear them talk about the games. I think it's really fun. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the insight that they bring. I was actually bummed when I heard he was coming to Bally Sports North. I was excited as a Twins fan, but he was so good on John Boy Media. Like, he was amazing. Everything he was putting on YouTube, like, he's such a great figure there. And to have him here, I don't know. I feel pretty fortunate, pretty lucky. I feel like we got with getting him. But the combination of Plouffe and Morneau bouncing ideas off each other, asking each other questions like we do, right? You and I are asking each other questions. We're debating stuff. But imagine if we had each played dozen years in the major leagues and we were asking each other questions like, oh, so what do you think of the spin rate on that guy's sweeper? Like, would you push that to the opposite field? Like, the things that they come up with and the things they say are just so over the top baseball genius in my mind, and you need them both. Trevor Plouffe alone is great, but with Morneau, that combo, I don't know. I used to listen to the radio and Danny Gladden and those guys a lot more than even watching it on TV, but now I'm like, just because I'm always doing stuff or working on the yard work or something when I'm listening to the game, but like, I am dialed in now to Bally Sports North. I want to watch the game. This is not a paid advertisement, but it is so fun to watch Bally Sports over every other broadcast. I mean, I watch a lot of baseball. I watch a lot of the other teams' broadcasts. We have MLB TV, and the Twins broadcast is with Plouffe is, I think, the best one out there now. I really do. They do a really good job, other than maybe like Yes Network, because they have their own Yankees network. Like, obviously they're amazing at doing that, but they bring some really good insights. I love to see it. And he's just so fun. He's just hilarious to listen to too. But the insights is amazing.
I mean, having two guys that spend that much time in the major leagues, they just see the game at such a different level than we do. And they like you said, they do a great job of just communicating that to the fans and helping all those fans see the things that they can see. And yeah, it's been great. Really, really livened up the broadcast for Bally for sure. But is there anything else
like,
go ahead.
And the last thing on Plouffe, like, if it feels like they do way less. A lot of broadcasts, sometimes they're just kind of BSing. They're just talking about stats. They're like, oh, this guy back last July had this much and this. And they're just like bringing up a bunch of stuff that their research team gave them, producers gave them. They're giving their opinion on stuff. They're describing a scenario like, oh, he just picked up his bat. He's walking to the plate, now batting. They do way less of that and more of, oh, on that last play, oh, they did almost get him out at home. It was close. But honestly, if you look at it and you break it down, the way that Correa, or I don't want to use Correa because I don't think it was him, the way Miranda grabbed that ball as he was the cutoff man, he turned the wrong way. Had he not turned the wrong way to throw that ball home, he would have been out by a mile. And they notice all these things that, a lot of the baseball players like you or myself, like, we may notice these things, but to have those guys like dive into it and talk about it and point out the little things where a lot of people are watching this on a surface level of being like, oh, they almost got him out at home. We're so good. We're so close. It's like, no, they should have had him out by a mile. No error on the play. Nothing looked wrong, but he caught the ball and turned the wrong way. That's on him, or he caught it on the wrong side of his hip. Like, there's just things like that in baseball that it's a game of inches, and they point out the inches, and I appreciate that about them. But anyway, let me ask you something, unless you were about to ask me, but I got to ask you about the new rules. We talked about it in the beginning of the season. We talked about the pitch clock. We talked about challenges potentially coming next year, stolen bases. pickoffs, all these different things, the bigger bases. How are you feeling? We are 50 games in. Do you like the new rules? Is there anything about the new rules you don't like? Do you feel like the pace of play is better? Where are you feeling? What do you think?
I mean, I absolutely love them. It's completely changed the way you watch a baseball game. I don't feel like I have to check my phone in between pitches. The pacing is so much better. I mean, we're seeing it with the average game length dropping, 37 minutes was it, compared to last year. I mean, viewership's up. You're getting way more casual fans actually willing to sit down and watch a baseball game because, I mean, the on-field product is more entertaining. It's more exciting than it's ever been. I am in full support of all these changes. I think they've been an outstanding success so far.
Is there any changes that you would like to see, or is there any specific ones you don't like?
I think the elephant in the room is being able to challenge balls and strikes. I mean, there's been plenty of times where the Twins have been affected by this and could have really came in handy. I mean, we're seeing it used in the minors, and it seems to be working out well. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be able to do it. We have the technology, the cameras, all the pitch tracking and everything. There's no reason that we should be getting calls wrong.
Right. And there's been some obscene calls wrong that have led to flipped games for the Twins in a way. I mean, just being a baseball player, you get that strike down the middle that gets called, or that ball that's way outside that gets called a strike. You're like, this at bat's over. Because now my strike zone is so big because he's going to be consistent on that. You don't know what's a strike and what's not anymore. And that's hard for a hitter. That's hard for a pitcher, too. You throw that ball right down the middle of the plate and they get called a ball. You're like, what do I got to do? Give them an easier one to hit? It just seems so simple. All they do in the minor leagues, I'm guessing, if you've watched some games, I think you've been to some Saints games. I've been to some Saints games. Ball goes on the outside of the strike zone. Umpire calls it a strike. All the batter does, just taps his head. And they're like, all right, let's take a look. They just turn to the scoreboard, and within seconds, it's up on the scoreboard. You see the line of the path of the ball, just like you watch in your MLB app or you see on TV. They do all the time. It's the exact same thing. The pitch tracks, I think it's called, something like that. And boom, done, ball. All right, sweet, moving on. Like, it is so fast. It takes less than 30 seconds, and they have it overturned. Nobody's mad at anyone. There's no one yelling at the umpires. It's way less drama. You don't have umpires staring down coaches in the dugouts because if they want to challenge it, because the pitch went right down the middle, should have been strike three, got overturned, the pitcher or the catcher just taps his head, boom, challenge. All right, no problem. It just seems I don't know. I was against it until I saw it. Until I went to a AAA Saints game, I was like, this is better. This makes so much sense. We should do this everywhere. Every Major League Baseball team should be able to just quickly challenge a call. I don't know why you wouldn't. And it puts pressure on the catcher and the pitcher to get it right too. Because if you get it wrong, I believe you lose that challenge. And now if all of a sudden the umpire makes a bad call the next one, you lost your challenge. You should have held on to it. So it's not like they're doing it every single inning, but they did it in a crucial moment at one Saints game I was at. I forget who was pitching. He pitched for us last year, but he was pitching, doesn't matter. And it was a full count, and it would have been strike three. The umpire called strike three, and even somebody I was with got up, went to the bathroom, was like, all right, I'll be back. And it was the end of the inning. But the batter was like, no, let me challenge that. And it got overturned. It was actually ball four. He took his base, which actually loaded the bases. Next batter hit a grand slam. 2 more hits after that, another 3-run home run, and he had given up 7 runs in literally just trying to get that last out. That would have been an out. So for that team, it wasn't good for the St. Paul Saints. It was bad for us, but the game was over anyway. We were already down by like 6 runs at that point. It was not a good game for the Saints that I went to that game, but it didn't matter because it was good for them. I wasn't mad about it. I wasn't mad they overturned it because it was the right call. I would way rather the call be right and the game be played the way it's supposed to be played, and you don't have to look at umpire scorecards on Twitter, if anyone's seen that, and go, wow, we literally were cost a run because of all these poor calls by the umpires. I'm tired of that. Let's get it right. And the other one rule I don't like this year, I still am not a fan of no shifts. Don't get it. I really still don't understand. Shift all you want. I'm all for the shift still. I wish they still shifted. But every other rule, I love it. The pace of play is amazing. I almost get annoyed sometimes when I'm listening to it on the radio because I feel like I listen to more commercials than I do gameplay. because it gets to commercial so fast. Like a 1-2-3 inning can take 2.5 minutes now, where before a 1-2-3 inning might take 10 minutes. It's crazy. It's just a completely different pace of play. I love it.
No, it's been great for sure. But is there anything else you want to touch on before we kind of wrap it up here?
Yeah, no, I don't know. We kind of touched on everything, but the last thing I did note that I wanted to talk about on the new rules, and I don't know if you've seen a lot of this, and I think way more of this is going to come in the playoffs. I think teams are not doing it a lot because they're saving it for the playoffs in my mind, but there's been some pitchers and hitters that have been using the pitch clock to their advantage, to mess with the pitchers, to gain automatic balls or strike calls. They've been stepping out of the box, looking like at the pitcher, seeming like they're ready to go. The pitcher steps on the mound and starts his windup. It's a ball. Just because the batter was not ready. You're not allowed to start your momentum or anything until the batter's ready. And they're catching a lot of Kenley Jansen and Yadier Molina. If anyone saw, look that one up the other day.
It was Contreras, right?
Oh, it was Contreras. Yeah. Not Yadi. I just think Cardinals and
Cardinals catcher. Well, Yadier not a catcher anymore.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't want to get too far off a Twins track, but like, could you imagine if we signed Correa to what we signed? That's basically what they did. They signed Contreras to a massive deal, and you're not even 50 games in the season, and you would be like, Correa, you're no longer a shortstop. We're just going to DH you. That's rough.
Yeah.
And for a catcher, that's like mentally really rough. Like to have your pitchers not on your side, it's got to be. It has to be their pitchers, but I don't know. The Twins catchers, they're amazing. The combo of Jeffers and Vasquez to reel it back in. Vasquez was a great signing. Long story short, I'm all for him. He's really good. I think he's a huge reason for the success of the starting pitching staff. But that's kind of my final note, honestly. Great signings by the Twins. Correa needs to step it up. Buxton needs to stay healthy. Pitching staff needs to keep going. Emilio Pagan needs to go away. And Joey Gallo hits Bombas.
Well said. Well said. Well, you can find all our socials at Hot Dish Sports. Go follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Until next time, go Twins.